I'll start, Narad.
Okay.
For him, mind's limiting firmament ceased above. In the griffin forefront of the night and day, a gap was rent in the all-concealing vault. The conscious ends of being went rolling back, the landmarks of the little person fell, the island ego joined its continent.
So we have some words here, very interesting. We see that this mind's limiting firmament. So we see that the mind has great limitations.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Sri Aurobindo covers the mind in great depth in all his works. But the word firmament
Mhm.
means the vault or the expanse of the heavens, the sky. See, so this limiting firmament, this seal over everything, this it ceased for him. It was no longer there. Nothing limited him anymore. And then he speaks of this griffin forefront of the night and day. Well, a griffin is a fabulous beast with the head and wings of an eagle and the body of a lion.
Oh.
Yes, that's a griffin.
Mhm.
And so when Sri Aurobindo uses that word with the idea of the forefront, which is the position of greatest importance, he's comparing this forefront of the night and day with this mystical beast. So night and day, it's like
Mhm.
a mystical beast. It's like an eagle and a lion.
Okay.
It's very, I know it's complicated, but it's very beautiful.
Mhm.
Now, this vault that Sri Aurobindo is speaking of, that is rent. Rent
Mhm.
means what? A gap was rent.
A gap was maybe given.
No, um, to rend something is to tear it apart, to split it.
Oh, okay.
So this little gap that was in the all-concealing vault was rent, torn apart,
Mhm.
and therefore the conscious ends of being went rolling back, and the landmarks of the little person fell. But landmarks are usually defined in the first instance as identifying features of a landscape. We say this hill is a landmark, or this
Mhm.
this lake is a landmark.
Right.
But but also it means, I feel, in a different way, it means these stages of development of the
Mhm.
little person, and it's the mark of previous consciousness. This landmark of the little person. It's a mark of previous consciousness.
Okay.
And and now we see therefore that the island ego, this little island of the ego, joined
Uh-huh.
its continent, and the continent here is divinity, joined the divine.
Mhm.
So we're seeing here that Ashwapati no longer has this limiting firmament of mind, it ceased already,
Mhm.
and in this forefront of the night and day, which is like a griffin, a gap was torn in the all concealing vault. That vault, you see, that conscious ends of being went rolling back. Even the landmarks of the little person fell. The little person, of course, is the island ego. It's the ego that
Oh.
that finally joined its continent. Very
Mm-hmm.
beautifully written. And now
Yeah.
we'll see what else has happened to Ashwapati.
So Narad sir, I'm just trying to, sort of relate every line in my head. So
It, you have to
yeah,
go over it again and again. You have to
yeah,
go over it many, many times because intellectually, there's no way we can understand this. We have to
right.
understand it with a much deeper sense. And that's
Mm,
why Mother tells us read it again and again and again. And eventually you'll say, oh, yes, I know exactly what this is.
mm-hmm.
But first
So
reading, it has to be maybe 50th reading and we'll get it.
okay,
Okay, so your question now.
yeah. So this ego that he's talking about here, is it in reference to Ashwapati?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
So Ashwapati, of course, is going to be a sage. He is a
Ah.
sage. But Sri Aurobindo is also talking here about himself. You know,
Mm,
he was born into this world in the
mm,
human way.
mm,
And so he was born, his mother gave him birth, and there was for a time in
mm,
him the ego, the
mm,
idea that I am he, I am Sri Aurobindo, I am Aurobindo Ghosh in those days. And
mm-hmm.
now he's telling us that as a result of all of these experiences that we read previously, also, this island ego that was Ashwapati Sri Aurobindo
Mm,
finally joined its continent, the vast, the infinity.
okay.
And
So,
now he's going to continue and we'll go slowly through it.
sure. Overpast was this world of rigid limiting forms. Life's barriers opened up into the unknown.
I have only opened into. Is it opened up is correct? So we see that for Ashwapati and for Sri Aurobindo, this world of rigid limiting forms.
Mhm.
Now, we know that he even overpassed the worlds in which we see everything as forms, and
Mm,
those forms are always limiting. Now, why is why is this? Well, until we reach the supramental and the body is transformed completely,
mhm,
everything we do is rigid and limiting. The body can only do so much. It can only run so fast. It can only jump so high. And everything, everybody, even the animal's body, um,
mhm,
is a limiting form. But with Sri Aurobindo, that's he overpasses it. He overpasses this world, this present world, our earth of rigid limiting forms. Now, once during a time when I was being severely criticized for taking financial assistance for the Matrimandir Gardens, the following came to me, and now it is a part of my inner being. Never judge another person until you can see their soul. And when you see their soul, there will be no need to judge.
mm,
So we see that he's overpassed this world of ours, this world of rigid, limiting forms. And then what happens? Life's barriers opened into the unknown. So, what can we truly see? Behind all things and all people, there is a truth which is imperceptible to the outer consciousness that sees only garments, not a face. To paraphrase Sri Aurobindo, If we could truly see, then these barriers of life would open into the new and the unknown. In another part of Savitri, he writes, ever to the new and the unknown, press on. So we have to break through and open ourselves. And now he's going to continue with this same thought. So please read.
Sure. Abolished were conceptions, covenants, and
Covenants, covenants,
cov-
covenant,
cov-
covenants,
covenants. Okay.
like dove, covenants.
Okay. Cov. Okay. Governance. Okay. Um, let me read that one. Abolished were conceptions, covenants, and striking off subjection's rigorous clause annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nescience.
So there's quite a bit to cover here. So a conception is a concept or a plan or a design. Can be an idea or a thought. So many
Right.
possibilities.
Uh-huh.
And a covenant is a binding agreement.
Okay.
So we see that these binding agreements conceived in the mind, these plans, designs, were abolished.
Mm-hmm.
Were abolished for Ashapati. And striking off subjection's rigorous clause. Now, subjection actually means something conceived in the mind, a concept again. And as a result, they annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nescience. So this is a little complicated, but we'll get it very slowly. We see that this rigorous clause, oh boy, this rigorous clause of subjection. What is it actually? What is a rigorous clause? Well, it's something harsh or strict or severe.
So are these the, things that you made in your mind with rigid limitations
Yes.
that were abolished? Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this is what we all do. Because we are subjected to these things. We haven't broken through them. So we see that having broken through, striking off, striking off, this rigorous clause of being subjected to something, the soul's treaty with nature's nescience. Now, that is very important because Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine tells us that nescience in nature is the complete self-ignorance.
Okay.
Nescience also is absence of knowledge or awareness. It's ignorance. So to annul something is to make something void, to cancel it, to invalidate it.
Right.
So this soul's treaty with this ignorance of nature is annulled. Now, why is it nature's ignorance? Well, nature doesn't really have perfection as yet. She's working towards it. She's creating new and new forms. She's creating new flowers, new things. And she does it very leisurely. It can take millions of years. She'll extinguish the dinosaurs and all those other great beings, and she'll keep the elephant for some reason. And she will bring a new a new species into being. But
Mm-hmm.
she's doing it, not in a totally conscious way, in
Mm-hmm.
almost a nescient way, an absence of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the soul's treaty with this nescience of nature has been done away. Now I want to do more and see why that what has happened here as a result of this. So please read again.
Narad sir, was your voice broke a little bit. So if you don't mind, can you repeat the last sentence? I'm sorry.
Yes, surely. The um, this treaty of the soul with
Mm-hmm.
nature's ignorance was annulled by Sri Aurobindo, by Asupati, cancelled,
Okay.
made
This
void, made null, abolished. So the
soul's
soul
treaty means,
yeah,
was there a bond between the soul and the nature that was invalidated?
yes, that is correct. That is correct. There is this bond between the soul and nature. The
Mm-hmm.
soul wants to grow much faster, and
Mm-hmm.
nature wants to take her time. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a kind of treaty back and forth. But
Mm-hmm.
for Ashupati, he's making such incredible progress that this treaty with nature is canceled. It's
Got it.
made void.
Okay.
So a little bit more, and then I'll ask you to read from the beginning again.
Sure. All the gray inhibitions were torn off and broken the intellect's hard and lustrous lid. Truth partitioned found
Mama.
immense sky room. Sorry, truth unpartitioned found immense sky room. An Empyrean vision saw and knew. The bounded mind became a boundless light. The finite self mated with infinity.
Wow. So you see how fast he's
Yes.
progressing. We see that this world of limiting forms is gone, they're
Mm-hmm.
overpassed, and he's opened all these barriers of life, opened into the unknown, and even these conceptions, these ideas, and this binding agreement were abolished, and even subjection's clause struck off. And what
Mm-hmm.
else? The soul's treaty with nature's nescience is annulled,
Yes.
and all the gray inhibitions were torn off. Now, we see that these inhibitions that we have are usually gloomy, dull, or,
Mhm.
dreary. Um, we can see that um, these inhibitions, these almost unconscious restraints of behavioral processes, these
Mhm.
desires, these impulses, were
Mhm.
torn off. All these gray inhibitions were torn off. I think the other night it was Ranganath who said that, the Muslims say Allah is great. Allah
Mhm.
is great. Huh? But why could not Allah be small if he wished? If he is the divine, if he's
Yeah.
great, could he not be humble and poor? You see, if he's the divine, he's everything.
True.
So here we see that all these gray inhibitions were torn off, and the intellect's, the mind's hard and lustrous lid was broken, and truth is no longer partitioned out So you have a piece of truth here, and then you get another piece of truth and another piece of truth. No longer, no, no, the truth without any divisions, without being sectioned off, found immense sky room. And this Empyrean vision, this highest heavenly vision, saw and knew. And then this great line, the bounded mind itself mated with infinity. It married with infinity. It connected with infinity. It joined infinity.
Mm-hmm.
So the Empyrean is also supposed by the ancients to contain the pure element of fire, and
Okay.
it's usually defined as heavenly. A
Okay.
heavenly vision saw and knew. So
Okay.
please read from the beginning, and we'll conclude for
Sure.
today.
Okay. For him, mind's limiting firmament ceased above. In the griffin forefront of the night and day, a gap was rent in the all-concealing vault. The conscious ends of being went rolling back. The landmarks of the little person fell. The island ego joined its continent. Overpast was this world of rigid limiting forms. Life barriers opened into the unknown. Abolished were conceptions, covenants, and striking
Covenants,
off
cov, cov,
covenants,
covenants.
okay, covenants. Abolished were conceptions, covenants, and striking off subjection's rigorous clause, annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nescience. All the grey inhibitions were torn off and broken the intellect's hard and lustrous lid. Truth unpartitioned found immense sky room. An Empyrean vision saw and knew. The bounded mind became a boundless light. The finite self mated with infinity.
Very good reading. Very good. You it made sense to me when you were reading it. I understood everything. Very, very fine. Now we are seeing that Sri Aurobindo is actually speaking of himself.
Mhm.
And there'll be a lot more next time too, because he wants to tell us how he was progressing.
Mhm.
Um, I understand that the first book, Canto, Book One, Canto One,
Mhm.
he revised 50 times. He rewrote it 50 times. And when he was asked, why did you have to do it 50 times since you're the divine, you're the avatar? He says, each time I rose to a higher plane, rewrote it from that plane. So you can imagine where he was at number 50 to get to number one. Incredible. And
Absolutely.
and we're going to see next week when we continue that his progress has not stopped yet. Even though the finite self has mated with infinity, he's still going to march on. And he's still
Uh-huh.
going to progress, make tremendous progress. And we'll take that up next week.
Sure, Narad sir. Only because you explain me the meaning, I'm able to say it properly. It all goes back to you. I have not done anything here. But thank you so much,
Thank you.
Narad sir. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.